Happy Monday. Welcome back from the weekend, and today is Monday, April 27, 2020, and I'm going to focus on Psalm 134 today, but the full list of readings for today are Psalm 134, Genesis 18, 1 through 14, and then 1 Peter 1, 23 through 25. So, Psalm 134. It's called a Song of Ascents. If you notice, sometimes songs will have the Psalms, rather, will have these little titles, superscripts, above them that are part of the text, and they tell you what kind of psalm it is, what the purpose is for. Sometimes it'll say it's who it's directed to, and like it's, to be, what instruments are to be used with it. This is one that says a Song of Ascents. That's how you usually see it, but it's interesting because the CEB, which is the Common English Bible, says that it's a pilgrimage song, which is what it is. It's the songs were to be sung, songs of ascents were to be sung while people were traveling to the temple. If you read the Old Testament and you read the New Testament, one of the things you see is that people were, especially in Jesus' time, they were constantly going to and from the temple. And they were going there for different feasts, different high holy days. And so these psalms, these Song of Ascents, the idea was that they were sung while people were traveling to Jerusalem, to the temple for festivals and holy days. And they may have even been perhaps sung while people were actually mounting up the steps or ascending the steps to the temple or to the Temple Mount, or actually maybe even to the part of the temple where the Holy of Holies was. They couldn't get up to where the priests were, but they could kind of mount the steps. Some of what we read, we kind of think or know that part of their goal was actually to be as close to the Holy of Holies as they could at the time that incense offerings were offered in the afternoon, so that they could pray and that they their prayers would go up on the incense. So it was kind of like, get as close up the steps as you can. But anyway, at least the Song of Ascents, like the CEB says, they were pilgrimage songs, which is interesting to me because we're at a time where nobody's going anywhere. And so, what is this whole thing, pilgrimage? What are we ascending towards? And even then, pilgrimage is kind of a lost art. It's not, especially among Protestants, it's not something that we Protestants do much of anymore. It's still a big part of other Christian denominations and other world religions. For instance, one of the big things that people are kind of rediscovering, but in the Catholic tradition, is this pilgrimage, and I knew I should have written it down because it just completely evaporated out of my head. But it's a pilgrimage that goes across the northern part of Spain. Actually starts in France and then travels across the northern part of Spain, and it's become a big thing that people are rediscovering. Part of it is just because it's a fun hike and it's a reason to hike through Spain, but a lot of the people that I've known that have done it have actually gotten a lot out of it spiritually, and they really, it gives them time to reflect on themselves and their life in the church and their role as Christians. But like I said, other world religions, pilgrimage plays a big part of what they do. They have all these different holy sites that they travel to, and it's considered to be a part of good faithful service. Like if you're going to be a good Muslim, you are going to try, if you can at all make it happen, to travel to Mecca at least once in your life. And in the Jewish tradition, like we read in the Bible, they would go to Jerusalem at certain times during the year, the holy year. That's what, when we read about Palm Sunday, or celebrated Palm Sunday a few weeks ago, that's what that whole story was about. It was everybody heading into Jerusalem for the feast of the Passover. So anyway, pilgrimage, it's a thing. It's kind of a lost art, especially for us Protestants, unless you're Methodist, right? Unless you're Methodist, and then we have our weird little pilgrimage things that we do. This is the time of year when the Wesley Center typically is heading towards South Georgia, getting ready to, we would actually be leaving this Saturday to go down there to spend a week doing service work and doing some spiritual reflection and just generally relaxing at the end of a long semester, a long school year. But one of the reasons we go to St. Simon's Island is because it's a Methodist heritage site. And then we can also visit Savannah, Georgia, which is another Methodist heritage site. It's the places like Fort Frederica on St. Simon's Island is the only place where both John and Charles Wesley served as chaplains under General Oglethorpe, back when Georgia was just a colony. And then Savannah, of course, was the actual place where John Wesley was appointed as the chaplain to the colony. So, you know, we have our weird little Methodist pilgrimages. But, you know, even then, like, the thing about this year is it kind of feels weird without doing it. You know, with not being able to do that. And kind of raises a good question, like, how are you going to be a pilgrim without leaving your house, right? How do you do pilgrimage when you can't leave your home? How do you do pilgrimage when you can't really leave your town, and even if you went anywhere, it's all closed anyway? Well, I think the interesting truth is that when God is present with the believer, the holy place is there. In Psalm 134, it says, "A song of ascents, come bless the Lord, all you servants of the Lord, who stand by night in the house of the Lord. Lift up your hands to the holy place and bless the Lord. May the Lord, maker of heaven and earth, bless you from Zion." You know, in that way of thinking, God is tied to a place, and places are tied to God, and that's what makes them holy. But when God is present with the believer, and that's what we as Christians believe, that God is now present with all the believers. Matter of fact, we're in 1 Peter for the next several days for the daily Bible readings, and he kind of hits on that idea over and over again throughout that book. But, you know, when God is present with the believer, the holy place is there, or wherever the believer or believers are, you know, wherever two or more are gathered. And Peter talks about that. It's unfortunately not in the texts for the next several days, so I'm just going to jump ahead to it. But in chapter 2, verses 4 and 5, he says, "Now you are coming to him as to a living stone," and the him is Jesus. He says, "You are coming to him as a living stone." That is, Jesus is the foundation stone, is the imagery he's using. "You yourselves are being built like living stones into a spiritual temple." And so Peter has now kind of shifted the importance of the place. The place where God abides is no longer this building in Jerusalem. The place where God abides is now this temple that he is building out of the believers and has built upon the foundation of his son, Jesus Christ. So, you know, the Christian life is a pilgrimage. It's a constant pilgrimage, but it's not so much that we have any real specific place we have to go. It's that we're constantly ascending. If we're ascending to a holy place, it's that holy place which is God's presence, and it's that presence that we're struggling constantly, always ascending towards to build within ourselves. You know, we are those living stones built on a living cornerstone, and so the pilgrimage for us never ends, and the pilgrimage for us is constantly ongoing because we kind of are the place where God abides. So anyway, have a happy Monday, and we shall see you tomorrow. Boop.